Most CPAs cannot answer this math riddle. So in this episode, we are going to answer the question, what are the pitfalls of owning an IRA or 401k that most CPAs don't tell you? I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and a tax planning strategist for 45 years. And in that capacity, I've helped thousands of clients who have come to live events, come for counseling with a lot of the financial advisors that I point my students to, my mentees. But I've also trained over 3,000 financial advisors, many of them that are CPAs and tax attorneys. One of my favorite things to do when they come for advanced continuing education is to sort of humble them at first at the beginning, okay? I'll usually ask them things like, well, how many of you think you understand compound interest? And they all roll their eyes and they raise their hand. Yeah, duh. I go, okay, we'll see. And I say, how many of you can answer this math riddle? So I usually do this at the beginning of the hour. I'll say, now listen close. Let's see if you can answer it. One day, there are three fishermen that go out for a great day of fishing. And at the end of the day, they have a wonderful day. They decide to check into this little mountain lodge by the lake. The clerk at the front says, oh, yeah, we do have one room left down at the end that has 3 beds in it. It's very simple. It's $30. Well, 3 men, $30. So easy. Each of them shell out $10 to equal the $30. So far, so good? So they're going back, getting settled in this little sort of hotel, and the clerk is entering that in the books. And she goes, oh, I forgot. We're remodeling. The insulation's out of the wall down there, and they can hear the laundromat. We've been discounting this room down to $25. I overcharged those 3 men $5. She takes 5 $1 bills out of the cash register. She gives them to the bellboy and said, would you go refund these $5 to those 3 men down at the end? So the bellboy is walking back, and he's thinking, how are 3 men going to divide up these 5 $1 bills evenly? And he's not very honest, and so he decides to make it simple, and so he pockets 2 of the dollars. And he only refunds $1 to each of the 3 men. So far, so good? Okay, let's do an accounting here. We have 3 men that originally paid 10. The bellboy comes back and he refunds $1 to each of the 3. So they didn't pay 10. They ended up only paying a net of 9, right? Okay, let's do an accounting. 3 men times $9 equals $27. Plus the 2 the bellboy kept or pocketed equals only 29. Where's the other dollar? You got it? 3 men originally paid 10. They each got $1 back, so they only paid a net of 9. 3 men times $9 equals 27. Plus the 2 the bellboy kept equals only 29. Where's the other dollar? Now, most CPAs, they sit there and they go, taxes. It went out in taxes. Now, some of them have an abacus in their briefcase and they try to figure out where the dollar is. Some have slide rules. Some of them even have calculators and they're trying to figure out where that dollar is. And they get a little bit embarrassed. And then I give them the answer at the end of the hour. It drives some of them crazy. So, what is the answer? What am I doing wrong? Well, I'm adding when I should have been subtracting, okay? And I say, you CPAs, what did you learn in Accounting 101? To ask yourself, what are you accounting for? Number 2, is it a debit? Am I subtracting? Or is it a credit? Am I adding? Oh, yeah, I forgot we learned that in 101. So if we were doing it the way that I set them up, okay, 3 men times 9 equals 27. If we're trying to account for the $30, is what I insinuated, you go 3 times 9 equals 27, but the $2 is out of the picture now. The bellboy pocketed that. So you subtract the $2. That equals 25. which is the price they paid for the room. Okay? Now, if you're trying to account for the $30, doing it the way I just did, 3 men times 9 equals 27, plus the $3 they got back equals 30. See, I was adding $2 when I should have been adding 3. If I'm talking about what the bellboy has, I should have been subtracting, not adding. And they just sit there and they're embarrassed because most of them flunk that little math riddle. And so I have their attention the rest of the hour because they want to know what the answer is, and then they're a little bit surprised. Now, you wouldn't believe how many CPAs do that, but what's my point? I'll share. So the point I'm getting to in the advanced continuing education class is they were adding when they should have been subtracting. I say, so how many of you CPAs have been telling your clients to choose retirement vehicles that will add up to the most by putting pre-tax dollars into IRAs and 401ks? Yes, they raised their hand. I go, so why are you doing that? You're telling your clients to choose investments based upon which ones grow to the most without subtracting what? The impact of taxes, because people have to pay tax on those IRAs or 401ks at the end of the day in retirement, and the impact of inflation, cutting the purchasing power of the dollar in half, maybe every 7 to 10 years at typical rates of inflation. You haven't subtracted that. So that's not the best advice. You should not be telling them to do that because it grows to the most. You choose investments based upon which ones generate the most income at the time in life you're going to need that money the most when you subtract taxes and inflation. They go, so what are you talking about? A Roth? Well, no, I don't own a Roth, but a Roth is a step in the right direction. How many of you CPAs think that in the long run taxes are going to be lower? They don't raise their hands. The public doesn't either. How many think that taxes are going to stay the same? Very few. Well, then how many of you think that in the long run taxes are going to be higher, especially if people save a lot of money? Then why are you telling people to defer and postpone paying taxes on future perceived unknown advantage and then withdraw your money in retirement when you're in as higher bracket as you've ever been in? You're not subtracting the negative impact of taxes. You got $1 million, it's not your money in an IRA 401k. Only about 600,000 or 700,000 of that is yours. If it's earning 10% and you pull out $100,000, that's not all your money. You have to pay tax of 30,000 on that 100. You only have 70,000 to buy gas and groceries, prescriptions and golf green fees. Was that the best way? So if you think that's the best way to save when you know taxes are likely going to be higher, no, think again. I can prove to you mathematically that if taxes go up, a Roth IRA 401k is probably going to provide 33% more in net spendable income. I have other episodes that illustrate this, and math doesn't lie. But see, the key in this episode is to understand that you choose investments and strategies that will generate the most at the time in life you're going to need the money the most. One of my favorite vehicles for retirement, I would have 60, 70% of my money in this. I'd have 100% if I was allowed to, but I can't. But this is in what I call the Laser Fund, which is the title of my most recent best-selling book, and you can get a free copy by watching this next episode here. But the Laser Fund is totally tax-free. See, a Roth, you put after-tax dollars and it's tax-free on the back end, but my Laser Fund has the benefits of a Roth. It accumulates tax-free. I can take it out tax-free. But 3 additional benefits that Roths don't have. You can only put in a certain amount of money into a Roth. Rich people can't own Roths. They make too much money. I can put in $300,000 into my Laser Fund in a single year if it's a great banner year. If 4 days later I need $250,000 back, I can take it back out again. There's no penalties. You can't do that with a Roth. But when I pass away, every million that I might have in my Laser Fund, if I died, would blossom to $2.5 million tax-free when I pass away and transfer to my heirs or my church or charity or my kids, my grandkids, whoever. There's not a Roth around that will do that. And people say, well, how much does that cost? Nothing. It's being covered with otherwise payable tax that most people pay on traditional IRAs or 401ks, or even on the seed money into Roths. So that's why I use this riddle to get CPAs to rethink their thinking that what they're telling people is only in the moment what is saving them tax, not the big picture, what is going to be the best vehicle to provide the greatest amount of income for as long as people live, if they live to be 120. So what are the key takeaways? Don't always just take the advice of a CPA that is only looking at the present moment, saving you tax. No, if they really saw how much tax you would pay by stringing it out, taking required minimum distributions, by deferring as long as you can, and then taking out the required minimum the government says, they would be flabbergasted. They would probably be rephrasing, hey, instead of, do you want me to save you some tax this year? It would be, would you like to continue to postpone and compound the tax to enormous amounts the rest of your life? Would you like me to do that? People go, what? Why would I do that? But see, they don't say that. They just say, can I save you tax this year? Folks, you probably understand it's in the long haul what you want to do for the best strategy. So that's why I'm so passionate about teaching these strategies and concepts as a tax strategist myself. When CPAs and tax attorneys get it, they stop recommending that people take RMDs out of their IRAs. They even tell people, don't put any more money into an IRA or 401k. Pay the tax. Don't put it in a Roth. Put it into a Mr. Andrews laser fund, and that thing will knock the socks off of any Roth that I've ever seen, because they finally get it, and they didn't learn this when they became a CPA. Isn't that sad? Some of these tax attorneys got an LLM degree, a master's in taxation, and they come and they go, I didn't know any of this. So click on this episode and learn more and get a free copy of my book, The Laser Fund, and you'll be able to understand why the Laser Fund knocks the socks off of any IRA 401k or Roth IRA or 401k.